Hello, Year 9. I hope you've had another successful week and you're taking care of yourselves. In terms of work that I've received, it's a very similar number to last week. So we've had pretty much the same people doing the work again. We've had a few people who've done work this week that haven't last week, so well done. But there's still a lot of people not sending in any work or contacting me in any way. So let's try and improve that this week. So, same as last week, let's turn off your phone, close down any other tabs so we're not using that for assistance, and use the information on the video. So if you're stuck, you can pause the video whilst you're completing the tasks, you can rewind it and have another go. Just do your best and don't give up. So your first task is at the top of your sheet, so you should have either be on the foundation or the higher. And your first task is to complete your do now task. So the questions are at the top of your sheet that you should have downloaded. So if you're in bottom set, you should be doing foundation. Top set, you should be doing higher. And it's up to you to challenge yourself if you're in set 2. So the first task, top of your sheet, complete the do now questions. Right, check your answers. Mark your answers, give yourself a mark out of 5. Green pen or make some adjustments and make sure you write down the correct answer if you got them wrong. So you will definitely need to know the job of the ribosomes. So make sure you've got that if you got that wrong. So correct your answers, especially number 5. Make sure they're in the right order. So today we will be going through how to describe why certain cells have different functions, different features. We're going to talk about cell differentiation and certain reasons why certain cells have things in and other cells don't. So, we're made of cells. Obviously, we're made of animal cells because humans and animals are made of millions of different cells. So if we're made up of these cells in the left-hand corner, why do we not look just like a pile of cells? How do we have faces and body features? Why don't we just look like a pile of cells? So, like I just said, all living things are made of cells. A human body has around 3 trillion cells. Most cells are specialised to do a certain job. So this is why we don't just look like a ball of cells. So one cell will become a sperm cell. One cell will become stem cells. One cell will become muscle cells. So cells become different things. In animals, so we are an animal, so we're not just talking about lions and tigers, we're talking about every type of animal. Cell differentiation begins in an early embryo. So that is when you're first fertilized. So an embryo, we have stem cells. In adults, cell division and specialization is mostly restricted to repair and replacement of cells. So that means when we need some new cells because some are becoming tired and old, then cells will divide and will replace the ones that we need to replace. But in an early stage, when we're an embryo, we have these things called stem cells that we'll talk about in a minute. So, as the embryo that we've just previously talked about develops and gets bigger, these stem cells become specialised. So, a stem cell can become any type of cell. So, whatever we need, whether it's a muscle cell, a red blood cell, a nerve cell, a sperm cell, this stem cell can become any of those types of cells. So, it's really clever, really important. So, another thing is we need to know the order of organisation in the body. So, we need to know if we put them in size order. Is it cell, tissue, organ, organ, tissue, cell? What's the correct order? So, cells group together to make a tissue. So, a tissue is a group of cells. Then our next one up is an organ. So, organs are groups of tissues. So, it goes cell, tissue, organ. And then a group of organs is an organ system. So if we think about your circulatory system, that is one part of the body, one organ system, and in that we've got your heart, and in that we've got muscle tissue. So if you want to pause the video and copy out that example, there is one on the next slide as well. So it's up to you which example you use. We've got a plant example and we've just gone through the circulatory system in animals. So I think it would be a good idea for you to copy down one of those so that you know that it goes cell, tissue, organ, organ system, organism. So pause the video and you can rewind it to the last slide, pick one of those just to write some brief points about. So if we take a look at plants, plants contain a constant source of stem cells. So we can take cuttings from a plant and grow an identical plant just from those cells. So they're very useful. So if you think about in farming and you've got a successful crop, a successful plant, you can take cuttings from that plant and grow an identical plant, and then that will be successful as well. So in industry, it's very useful that we can use these stem cells to produce an identical plant. Okay, so mark your answers. So the first one, we need specialised cells because we need a lot of different cells to do different jobs. Number 2, what is the ball of cells formed just after fertilisation? That's called an embryo. What are the cells found in the embryo? They're your stem cells. And number 4, what happens to these cells as the fetus develops? So as the fetus develops, these cells all develop special features so they can do different jobs. And we'll come into how these cells look different and what features they have in a minute. So we're going to have a look at some of these specialised cells in plants and animals. So now that we know more about organelles in cells, so that's what's inside cells, such as cell membranes, nucleus, etc., we can make suggestions about their specialised features and then link it to the jobs of each of these different cells we're going to talk about. So the first one we're going to look at are found in the nose and trachea. So they're really, really important. You should be able to see that it has mitochondria and ribosomes. So if you look at the organelles inside the image, you can see that we've got mitochondria and ribosomes. It also has hair-like projections called cilia. So that's literally what the hairs look like at the top of the image. So what these do, they line your airways and they trap dirt, trap pathogens and trap things that we don't want going down into our lungs. So they trap it and then they're almost beating like a wave and then it gets brung back up by your mucus. Ribosomes make mucus that is secreted onto the surface of the cells and this basically traps it. So any harmful bacteria we don't want, it gets trapped and then we're doing our best to bring that back up. Another example. Here we've got a palisade cell. They're only found in plants, so we don't have palisade cells in animals. What features can you see on this image? So think about your organelles. Have we got a cell wall, cell membrane? Have we got a nucleus? What can you see? Just have a think. Once you've thought of a few things that might be in there, why do you think there are a lot of these in there? So what are all these dots, all these circles inside the cell, and why might it have a lot of them? So what you can see is lots of chloroplasts. So chloroplasts absorbs and takes in energy from the sun. So it's obviously from a plant, this palisade cell, so its job is to absorb as much energy from the sun as possible so that photosynthesis can happen. So the more of these chloroplasts, the more energy it can absorb. So every cell is perfectly suited to do its job. So what I want you to do is to look on the second page of your booklet. So whether you're doing higher or foundation, they're both on page 2. And I want you to try and describe what you can see. So describe each feature. So the first example is a sperm cell. You need to think about its shape. You need to think about mitochondria. So mitochondria releases energy. So whenever you're thinking about a cell, think about, does it need energy? If it needs energy, for example a sperm cell to move, then it's going to have a lot of mitochondria. So you need to think about the features that it has and think about why it needs them. So I'll help you a little bit. A sperm cell needs mitochondria for energy so it can swim. So that's the kind of thing you're writing. So pause it, go back in the video if you need it. I've just given you a little bit of help. So pause the video and have a go at your task. There's a few for you to go through. Do your best. Right, so if we go through some of the answers, your first one was a sperm cell. So like I said, sperm cell have mitochondria in order to release energy so that it can swim. So the whole point of a sperm is to swim up and reach the egg in order to fertilise it. So it needs energy to swim up there. It can't stop off and get some food and get some energy itself. That needs to be in the cell already. So another thing, you need to think about the shape of the sperm cell. So it's streamlined. So that allows it to swim faster. It's got some ribosomes in the sperm's head, which release enzymes to break through the egg's cell membrane so it can actually fertilise. So that's your perfect sperm cell answer. So if you've missed a couple of them, just add it on to your answer. Muscle cell. All I needed to say was that muscle cell have lots of mitochondria to release energy so that the muscle can contract all day. Nerve cell. They've got a branched membrane to allow connection to lots of other cells. So a nerve cell's job is to pass on electrical impulses to cells all the way around it. If we move on to slightly more difficult ones, to the plant cells, the xylem have hollow tubes to allow water and minerals to flow. So xylem and phloem transport things around the plant. They've also got spirals of lignin to strengthen and support the plant and leaves. Phloem, they're tubes with end plates with pores. This allows the flow of dissolved substances. So pores allow some things to dissolve through. So these are more difficult. And your last one, your root hair cells, they have got an elongated membrane. So it looks almost like a spike. It gives it a large surface area so that it can absorb and take in the most water and minerals possible. So root hair cell, in really basic terms, all you need to say is it has a large surface area to absorb as much water and minerals as possible. So, another learning check. We've got quite a few questions. They should be quite straightforward. We've touched on a couple of them already. So you've got 8 questions to have a think about. Pause the video, rewind the video at any point, and have a go. So if you're really stuck, have a guess, do your best, or rewind the video, see if you can find some information that will help you. Look through your work pack, look through the notes you've already taken. Right, check your answers, give yourself a mark out of 8. Fill in any that you haven't got, so if you got a little bit confused or you forgot a question, for example, number 6, make sure you're writing the answer in a different colour. So, your last thing you need to do, well done on completing everything else. The last thing, you've got a fluency test. So attached to your email, there are some exam questions and a fluency test. So you have all week to complete these tasks. So some people are sending me little bits of work after one day and thinking they're finished. You've got a lot of tasks attached to your email and you've got a full week to complete them. So I will upload everything onto an email for you. It'll be set on Show My Homework as well. Everything is set for next Friday. So from Monday to Friday this week, you should be sending me your work at any point. If you're stuck on anything, send me an email and I'll happily help you. Good luck and take care.